Did you get everything out of camp that you hoped to going into official game week? I mean, I'm sure coaches never have everything what they want, but how'd you feel about preseason camp?
Felt really good. From spring to the summer to fall camp, kind of 3 different sections. But with the new rules and our access to the players, it was the first in my tenure that I've ever had the summer really be that much of a smooth transition into fall camp. Other than some pads being put on, there was definitely a progression for it that allowed, from a teaching standpoint, to be really clean. And then it helps with having a lot of players back that have played in the system for a while. So felt really good about camp. Thought we had to push through some things that we needed to push through. Thought we got the right amount of reps for the right people. You're going to go through some dings and bumps here and there, and that's all part of it. But yeah, felt really good about where we come out fall camp.
How much better do you feel about your depth going into this year compared to last year, both in their experience and just their competitiveness and the ability to run guys out there as almost co-starters at a lot of spots?
There's definitely a few more knowns, Chris. I think there's a few more knowns that aren't just your top 11. So that builds confidence. But just like every year, you've got guys that redshirted last year or true freshmen or transfers that had come in that weren't knowns, but you feel like they are because they caught up quickly. Or what they've done through their body of work through the spring, summer, or fall camp. So we're definitely in a place that I'm excited about. I think we've got good depth at most spots, but now it's about going out there and executing at game time.
You guys have talked about the front porch since you've come here, and obviously it's changed a little bit since last year with personnel. But I guess what has stood out about this specific group through camp so far? What do you think will be the strength of that unit?
Yeah, I think we've got a lot of returning depth. Last year there were players like Malcolm Ray and Derek McClendon that you hadn't really heard about as much, and they came on and had solid years. Jarrett Jackson in that mold too. I think we really started to develop an identity last year, and when we showed up here, that was going to be a critical place. I think, in recruiting you always have numbers that you try to hit at positions, but, for us, we can never have enough depth or enough good players up front to play the way we want to play. It's the absolute front porch to our defense. It's who we are, and it's part of the reason why we have 2 defensive line coaches, too, to get that group coached up the way we need to. I think we've got 2 of the better D-line coaches in the country. And we've created depth through recruiting, and we've created depth through development, and that needs to continue.
Coach, are there things you saw last season from the transfers you brought in that you could use as like indicators of what these guys can contribute to you this season from what you've seen from this new crop of transfers this preseason?
Yeah, I don't know if you could say, well, this player was like this, so now this player's like that. I think there's practice landmarks that you come to for each player that comes in. Sometimes it takes you 1 or 2 practices, and when you see it in person, and you coach them, you see the response, and then you see the activity against players, you're like, okay, this is going to work. I think there are different moments with the guys last year that you felt really good about early, but you still, I think when you saw it in games, made you feel even more comfortable. And I think that's going to be like that this year too. We've got some more transfers on defense that we took. We've got some true freshmen that came in, at the midpoint on defense that, some guys, as you look at the depth chart, are up there pretty high. So that's an indication of what we think is about to happen for them. And, it's our job to be right.
Do you remember the first time Randy talked to you about Tatum Bethune and what you envisioned that to be versus maybe what he's become?
Yeah, absolutely. So, this portal is an ever-breathing, living organism, and it's constant, it's daily. And usually, even before film, when guys that have been productive at a high level pop up, the first thing we usually do, or I usually do, is look for somebody that I have a connection with to get the quick synopsis of what it is, even before I jump to the film. And so that one was easy. And so when it happened, I went to Randy, and Randy said, he'll help us. And I said, okay. And I've got a good relationship up with Randy that we don't take many words with each other. And so I went back, watched the film, and came back to him and gave him some concerns, gave him some things that I thought he would fit really well. We talked it through, talked about the room that we had, and made a decision fairly quickly that he was going to be a good fit here. And Randy was right. Tatum fits in personality-wise. He's got a great leadership maturity to him, but he's got quickness to him. He's physical, and he plays smart. And he's definitely somebody that has brought the level of play of the linebacker room up and our defense.
Following up on that question, I guess, what are your thoughts about the growth of the linebacker room, and specifically with Tatum? I guess what has his experience and maturity done to kind of elevate the guys around him?
Well, that's been the one position that from the day we walked in here, it's the same guys playing still. It's Amari, it's Kalen DeLoach, DJ Lundy, it was Leonard Warner, and he's now playing D-line. Really the only one that's not here that played a lot of football one year was Emmett. So it's really the same guys are still playing. They're just 3 years older now, and they've played in the system. And so now when you're able to work that group, and then you add Brendan Gant to that list, and again, that was somebody that started a lot of football games, just at a different position, but you put those four guys together, and there's a lot of football plays that played in our defense. And so that stuff has accumulated the effect. You add development to that, and then guys get better. Then you add Tatum, you add Omar Graham, and you add some of the younger guys that you pick up along the way, and that's how you create a room. And I think that room, as much as any room in our defense, has been truly developed. Because the same guys that were playing, 3 years ago, they're still playing, and they are getting better. And so that's how the room gets better. And I think we showed some improvement last year, but it's definitely a position that we need more improvement this year. And through the summer and fall camp, I think we're in the best place we've been since we've been here as far as that room, the consistency, the ability to make plays.
Coach, you talked about all those guys being back at linebacker. I think you probably feel pretty good about your back end and the five guys you have there, what you have on the inside with Fabian and Robert. But the guys on the edge, whether it's Dennis and Derek have given you something, Jared's a new guy. How much of a focus has the pass rush been for you coming off the edge, and where do you feel you're at right now going into this first week?
Yeah, it's always a fine line of when you're getting things repped of, four-man rush versus pressure and getting those things taught to your D linemen. You're going to do what you have to do to win the game as far as schematically. I've always believed that when you recruit D linemen that can impact the game on first, second, and third down, you got to let them go do it too. And so when we recruit these guys, we sell the fact that there's going to be a lot of moments on third down that, we're going to give you the opportunity to go win the game. And so we do that with our guys. Now, if we think pressures help more in situations or in plans, that'll happen as well. But we've got a lot of good returning players. But listen, we're a team that needs to get a lot better than where we were and where we finished last year. So it's great that we've got a lot of good players coming back. I think we do. I don't know if the rest of the conference feels that way. That's up to them. But we have developed them, and we've developed them the right way. But now it's a point to put the product out there that we go show the type of defense and the type of team that we can be, that we want to be. And there's still a lot of work to do that. But the opportunity is coming up this Saturday.
You talked about the depth at defensive tackle earlier, but just bringing back Fabian and Robert, what have you seen from them kind of this preseason? I know Odell talked about it's a blessing having two guys who are that experienced kind of leading that group.
Yeah, anytime guys get to that point in their career where, they come back for another year. And, it's always, I think as a coach, when sometimes these players, if they have NFL opportunities, or if it's just moving on, they'll always ask you, what do I need to do to get better? Or, and I think as a coach, you want to be very specific to them, if you come back, this is what you need to come back for, and give them not only goals but objectives. And because when they come back, they're back for a reason, and there's a lot of improvement that needs to happen. And that's what I've seen with Coop and Fabian. There's been good leadership strides made, but they're on Coach Hagan's, they're on his backside connected to them during individual. And that's when you know the engagement of getting better at the details. That's such a repetitive position, and it's such a 6-inch discipline position that it's important that their mindset is on that technique-wise. And I think both those guys have set a good standard. And I mean, listen, you go watch either one of those two play 2 years ago, and now you go watch them play now, and they're different players. And that's a credit to them individually. It's a credit to Coach Storms. It's a credit to our nutrition department, our medical department, Coach Hagens. And it's part of how you get better. You recruit guys, and then you develop them by telling them what they need to improve on, and then you put a structure in place for them to do it. I think both of them have done that.
Coach, can we talk scheme a minute? Last year, your defense seemed to be a significant improvement during this season. Did you find something there that fit the players, and how have you developed that from last season to this?
Yeah, I think as we got going and got our hands on that group, and as the season was going, we were able to lock in on some roles. I think that started for sure, especially in the back end. Allowed guys that we thought played really well together play with each other for longer stretches of the game. I think schematically it got pretty simple for us. And there were times as a coach you make a decision of, okay, I think we're good enough talent-wise to be able to play fast and execute and coach some details, but not change the picture a whole lot for them. And I think that's where we got to. I think as you develop as a group, as a unit, you want to be able to always hold that mythology as far as how you want to do things, or that method of how you want to do things, but you also want to continue to add some different pictures for the offense. So I think you do that without jeopardizing the speed that you play with or the confidence you play with. I think that's where we're at as a defense right now. I think the understanding of what we want to do and how we want to do it, and then be able to throw some change-ups where guys understand why we want to do things differently, I think are important.
Aslan for the last question.
Coach, I would think, like, intuitively it might be more difficult for a true freshman to play cornerback in this day and age because offense are so pass-heavy, but, you saw a guy like Duke Cooper last year be successful for you. Are guys like Sam and Azaria, I mean, what have you kind of seen from them that gives you the confidence that they can ramp up, by October, November, and maybe be in that kind of top-end rotation? I
think good freshmen can play. If guys are ready, they should play. And, we've shown that here. We've played true freshmen, and we've played them a lot, back to, early even Stephen Dix, year one, so we've played guys, and, I think Azaria and Sam are both talented players. Kevin Noles played a good amount game one last year, and it took Duke a little bit longer, so everybody's on a little bit different journey as far as what that time frame goes, but at no point will we ever limit a guy because it's their first year or their freshman. And we're gonna recruit guys that are skilled enough to play. It's our job to get them ready to play, and both those guys are going to have a chance to help us this year.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, guys.